Hello and welcome to TrishRockTV, interviews with people on purpose, loving life. Tonight's guest is the awesome Becky Paroz. Having spent almost 30 years in the construction industry, Becky has demonstrated her unique leadership abilities on some of the most demanding projects in the public and private sectors. As a successful engineer and industry leading project manager, she is a director in 3 companies and a global professional mentor. With involvement in graduate training programs and in-house workshops for many of her employers and clients, Becky's formal training as a performance coach allows her to generate learning outcomes that create lasting change. Becky has been and continues to be a speaker at state and national industry conferences. She's a driving force for the development and integration of culture and systems for industry improvement. Delivering workshops that transcend lessons learned and focus on the improvement of human capital in relation to project management and beyond. Becky is known for her use of humour to challenge status quo thinking and offering alternative views for consideration. She is motivated to pass on her lessons learnt to assist and educate the next generation of leaders to become high achievers like herself. The Words of Beck is her first collection of non-fiction writing and is a guide to self-mentoring through adversity, being a resilient, confident leader from a woman who employed these skills to conquer early violence and sexual abuse, to leading in the construction world while dealing with a disability. Her style is supportive, educational, conversational, practical, easy to read, and designed to offer the lessons learned throughout her tumultuous life for others to benefit. Through childhood trauma, chronic pain due to a debilitating immunocondition, and the vast challenges of her career, Becky has never accepted anything less than achieving and surpassing her goals. She believes everyone needs the chance at a full life, no matter what the circumstances were that they were born into or grew up in. Becky encourages women to step up and showcase their skills. She writes regular blogs, promotes her books, which speak significantly on her experience, and offers support and mentoring to many industry groups through her presence and commenting. She offers professional and experience coaching and mentoring, as well as public speaking and training to women in the industry to encourage them to keep going and learn to manage the ups and downs that come with life. She's the winner of many awards, including the 2020 IWD Award for Leadership in Construction, Top 10 YMAG Women to Watch for 2019, the NAWIC Queensland Crystal Vision winner 2019, and the Fearless Educator Award 2019. Love that one. It's my great pleasure to welcome Becky to the show tonight. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, and thank you for having me, Trish. It's fabulous to be here.
Oh, what an impressive bio. You really are a diverse woman.
Yeah, I was reading it. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, wow, no wonder I'm tired all the time. And are we going to stop yet? Like, hang on, when did we get to my bed? There's a lot there. I've packed a lot into life. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, with your, all of the work that you do, it's all about living that full life, and your passion for life comes through everything that you do. So this resilience, let me ask you this first. It really is one of your greatest assets, and you use it through all of your work. Did this resilience begin when you were growing up, and did you realize you had this character in all that you've when did you realize that you had this character when you were taking these things on in work?
So I guess resilience, kind of like mentoring and all the rest, has become a bit of a more of a catchphrase recently as people are focusing on it, and it's become something that I guess society's identified that we're lacking in. So Yeah, I didn't know I was resilient, or I had it, or that was the word. More commonly, it was stubborn. Refuse to give in.
Yeah.
Don't take advice well. Those are more common phrases, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, I shouldn't cough. Everyone did have COVID. But clearly, and obviously, as you get older, you look back and you try to understand and find root causes and when did this and why did this. And of course, a lot of people like, how did you? So I've spent a lot of time thinking about it and analysing it and looking back. And look, I guess I must have been, is the very short answer. But I read very early.
Yeah.
So because it was a very crappy childhood, we moved around, we lived in a caravan, we were never in one spot for more than a couple of months.
Yeah.
I think 9 months was a record.
Wow.
So I didn't really, it wasn't worthwhile making friends. By the time that I got to know someone, we were moving on to the next town. I went to 13 different primary schools. So there was
gosh,
no
that's hard, isn't it? That's hard as a kid.
Well, it is, I suppose, for people who haven't lived it, but I didn't know any different. It just it's what it was.
Yeah.
But yes, looking back, you kind of think, wow, and people are worried about, their kids not coping if they change one school. And here I am just, I think there was 1 year, year 3, it was 3 different schools within the year.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't know any better, didn't know I had a choice to not deal with it well. But I think one of the things was that I was a very early reader. So I was reading kind of mid-grade by the time I started school. And I was reading probably adult by the time I was 8, 9, 10. I have memories of reading Charles Dickens by myself at that age.
That's fantastic.
So I think that's part of that resilience and that development is, because when you're that age, you don't really get there's a difference between fiction and non-fiction. It all seems possible to a child in a very, very closed environment. You don't know what everyone else is doing. So that line probably wasn't drawn very well, but what it did do is it allowed me to believe that at some point there'd be like the magic benefactor, as in Charles Dickens, and Great Expectations. It gave me great expectations. To this day, I'm still waiting for that benefactor to come find me. So here I am.
Yeah. And reading and books are a window to the world and the possibilities. So for you to have that, if you hadn't have had that at that age, you wouldn't have had this spark that you've got now.
I think a vastly different outcome. And I suppose that somewhat plays true with my 2 younger sisters who weren't as avid. Like if I was reading, I was studying, I was being good. So there's a lot of escapism just in the pure fact of holding a book. There's a lot of safety in that. Then there was the pure escapism within the book and the story. And I don't ever recall my sisters being that enamored of reading. And that shows, I suppose, in some of their coping mechanisms that don't support them very well, I suppose, or didn't as they grow up. So I do credit reading as a lot of the ability, I suppose, to grow out of it and be aware that there is other choices. A lot of people in the circumstances I grow up with have these statistics that they tend to fall into in quite high numbers. And I do believe a lot of that is because they don't know that there is anything else. And I think that's what really gave me was the belief, rightly or wrongly, that there was always something else, and I just had to wait to get out of there, or just had to wait for that mysterious benefactor, or someone to find me, or for the dragons to come, or whatever it was that was at the time I was reading that was going to be the thing that's
going to save you.
I think it gave me that hope, which is part of a foundation of resilience, is always being able to believe that it will get better, it will change, there will be a way out. You'll find your way out of the labyrinth.
Oh, absolutely, and it's powerful. It really is powerful, because if you don't have a way out, then you just fall in a heap, and you would not have been the same now.
No, I do agree with that.
Yeah. And I work with clients who are just beginning to find that possibility of life, and sometimes they're in the 50s like me, and I think, gosh, I guess for me, I've also gone after what I've wanted, but a lot of people are very suppressed for a very long time in life, and not knowing there's anything else. It's such a joy to bring that to them, and you would find that in all of your work and your speaking as well.
Absolutely, and it's why I do speak about it, because
Yeah.
there's this stigma and attachment and dirty little secret and don't tell people, left over from society, where you turned away and what happened inside the house you didn't look at. And I completely disagree with that. I think the more we shine the light on it, the more people not only may not be subjected to it because people are watching, but also they can hopefully hear of something or find something or realise that other people like myself and others have overcome it and lived fabulous lives as a result, or in spite of.
Oh, in spite of, that's it, absolutely, yeah. So how did you end up in the construction business, Becky? Tell us the story.
So one of those things that turned out to be, practically perfect for who I was and who I guess wanted to be, and not knowing any of that at the time. So I did tech drawing at school, or drafting. There's a couple of different names for it, but then I did math, science, and I was not encouraged in English, which is hugely ironic now that I'm actually known as a writer primarily. And I can probably write better than I can do math these days, but I was a math whiz back then. And so all of that combined, plus with the childhood, I was pretty clear with the guidance counsellor. I was like, right, I want a career that's high paying, because I didn't grow up with money, so I want to experience what that is, and I want to have the rich cars and the nice clothes that everyone else got that I didn't. I wanted something fairly quick, that I could kind of get into the workplace and be making money fairly soon, not 10, 20 years of climbing my way up.
And even those dreams are because you read books.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. That's right. And the third thing was something that would take me away from my circumstances, so that would allow me to travel or get out or be distant from where I was. And so with all my schools and everything, they sort of talked about architecture. And look, there's a thing between architects and engineers. They're not the same, and they don't see eye to eye. So it would have been an interesting career had I chose that path. But it was 6 years, 6 years of university and a very intense degree. And I didn't have that time. I didn't want to take that time as much as I would have loved to. I couldn't afford that. I had to pay my own way. So that wasn't practical. So engineering was kind of the next thing suggested. And I mean, to this day, people are like, oh, what do engineers do? I'm like, well, how long have we got? Because there's a myriad of things. But basically, we build stuff, whether that's computers or roads or mechanical things or big coolers or big machines or big plant, big manufacturing. We build stuff from micro to macro. But even that wasn't explained to me. It was more kind of like, well, you have to be really good at maths, and your tech drawing will be really good for you. So I'm like, how much does it pay? One of the top paying careers, for graduates. I'm like, sign me right up. Not at any point did anyone tell me that it was a male dominated industry. The girls didn't do this kind of stuff. No one mentioned that, which in hindsight was probably a good thing, because of where I'd come from, I may have actually allowed that to chase me away before I got there. So the first I knew of it was turning up to the open day and kind of exploring, wide-eyed, oh my God, I'm going to uni, first person in my family too, big deal, lots of pressure, and seeing all these boys everywhere and a couple of girls. I'm like, where's the rest of it? So, oh, well, we've only got 10 girls this year. I'm like, out of how many? And they're like, oh, well, we have between 650 and 700 enrollments in insurance.
Oh, gosh.
What? What? But by this stage, I suppose I was curious enough, and that's what they have the open days too, to kind of attract you. So I was like, okay, so we built things, and they broke some concrete, which was really interesting, and bent steel, which you don't think of steel being able to actually be that plastic. Lots of other stuff, and I'm like, well, what's that on nursing? Teaching.
Nursing wasn't going to do it for you.
Oh no, those traditional sort of female roles, and already I'm again reading and looking at that, going, I'm not cut out for that. So off we go. And so what happened obviously is I needed to pay for my degree as well. My parents no money. And so I went and got a job, and again, not coming from that sort of normal sort of background and knowing what people normally did. I didn't go and get a hospitality job or any of those things. I didn't have a car, I didn't have a license, I didn't have a lot of social skills. So I went and got a job in the industry. So
Okay.
I became a drafter for the princely sum of $3.33 an hour in my first job, which I'll never
Wow.
forget because it's just unbelievable that I even worked for that much. Um,
They are nice numbers, though.
well, yes, everyone calls them angel numbers. I'm like, yeah, not when it's the pay packet, though, you know?
That's right.
And he was bless his cotton socks and worked out of his home. So, you know, all the things that you kind of, in this stage, society, like, just tick wrong boxes. I was a teenager working out of an unknown man's house for $3.33 an hour. There were only other blokes there. It was like, you know, it's not something that anyone would kind of feel comfortable about. But I was like, okay, you know, this is my option or home.
Yeah.
So, you know, he was the kind of guy who'd argue, you know, oh, you know, he didn't turn up at 7:35, he turned up at 7:37 by my clock. So that's
Oh,
how
really?
oh my God. Oh my God, yes. So that was all sorts of fascinating. And then I just took off from there. So I went for an award, or no, it was a scholarship. And it was sponsored by an engineering company. So again, not knowing these things aren't quite done. I had a job application when I went for the award discussion. Kind of like, hey, I've got a job. If I can't get this, I need to pay for my. Anyway, they called me. So, you know, not knowing what's right and wrong, what's accepted and unaccepted, and all those things can actually be of a real benefit because you just go and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't get caught up.
Works.
You didn't get caught up in any of the protocols of,
Well, I didn't know any protocols. Like I said, kind of handy for when you do these really big, ballsy things that you don't realise they actually are. Like, hinting, you know, I'm going for a scholarship, but here, can I have a job? So anyway, they employed me, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And look, yeah, it's been a journey since then. You know, I've had like that could have turned me off. They let me go on Christmas Eve because I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis a couple of months previously and doing the right thing, you know, all the things, told my employee.
Yeah.
And so they thought in their very white, male, middle class environment that I should just focus on my studies without realising that I could not afford my studies. Or possibly not caring because it was just, you know, awkward. So that was 3 months before the Disability Discrimination Act came out in Australia. So that Christmas 1992.
Yeah.
But all these things, again, when you talk about that resilience, all these things kind of just made me go, well, screw you guys. I'm going to be successful. Every time someone did something like that and kind of made it like you don't belong here, you're not supported here, it's too hard for you to be here, all those things just kind of made my spine stiffer. Yeah. Made me more determined, sometimes to my own detriment, because I was throwing myself into the ground quite a bit trying to prove myself.
Yeah.
But all of those things just made me go, well, yeah, screw you guys. How dare you? How dare you do that? I'm going to go and get another job, and I'm not leaving because you tried to push me out. So of course the words were a lot stronger, but you know, I mean, polite.
I'd say you've probably got that in your character, that resilience, but all your actual childhood and the reading and all of that just bolstered it, you know, 100 times.
Yes, and yet it could have gone so completely in the opposite direction in any single point. So, and that's the answer to as to why, other than just, screw you guys.
Yeah. And how did you first get into public speaking, Beck? How did that come along?
So I'd done my second coaching course by then. And, you know, when I do something, I'm kind of like, give me all of it, give me the big thing, give me the certificate. You know, I don't kind of turn up for a day. I show up completely for the full length of time to get everything out of it. And it's not about collecting the certificates. It's about having the full experience. Yeah. So I'd done public speaking training, but I never really kind of dreamed I was going to use it.
All right. So you must have had
things like this. It's nice to have. Yes, if I need it, I've got some skills. Okay. But unlike everyone, the idea of public speaking terrified me. And then, because I had a big personality, and I kind of over the course of doing my coaching and kind of getting over my childhood and figuring out who I really was and wanted to be, I'd kind of gone from introvert to extrovert. And I was in the big extrovert stage where I was like, I can extrovert everywhere. I'm loving extroverting, and look at me, I'm an extrovert.
Put me on a stage.
and I think that's what surprised everyone is like, because I was quite happy to be that way and do that, and it was comedy and, you know, a big personality. You know, they just kind of thought naturally I'd be okay with public speaking, but no. Anyway, they didn't. My boss didn't at the time kind of check in there. So I was working on a major project. It was $1.4 billion. I was a lead for quality, but I kind of knew everyone. And so there were 650 people in the building. Again, most of them men. Fortunately, I was single. There was a lot of drinking at the pub on Friday nights and having a good time, all that sort of stuff. So I knew a lot of them on a fairly personal basis, I suppose. Okay. First name, have a chat, have a laugh.
Yeah.
So my boss didn't have a lot of personality. We did refer to him as the Lizard King because his face never changed. And if you said something like shocking, he just kind of blink at you. And so I do believe to this day, he was like, everybody likes you, and we've got this really crappy message we've got to tell everyone that they have to do, and they're not going to like it. But everyone likes you, so you get to tell them. Oh. He didn't deliver it that way. He just jumped in my office one morning and went, hey, we're going to do toolboxes. You're first up today at 2:00. I need you to give a 20-minute speech about this. And then ran away. Right. So I just kind of pale, went and threw up in the toilet, kind of had all those normal physical reactions to, oh my God, I'm going to be talking in front of 600 people. I had this beautiful friend who was working there, and she, because I was a bit of a personality, my boss had given me a crown. I don't have it handy, otherwise I would chuck it on. He gave me a tiara, so I was known as the quality queen because that's the area I was working in. So she got.
Is that why you've got the nickname the Queen on some of your stuff?
Yes. It comes directly from back then, which is a long time ago now. He bought me the tiara and everything. So occasionally I'd wear it around, or I wore it to meetings, or just for giggles or whatever. Yeah. And so anyway, she built me this toolbox time, but she called it tiara time, and said, "Here you go. Here's it's funny. I think." The movie at the time that was popular was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
So she did the Hitchhiker's Guide to this program that we were trying to encourage them to use, which no one did because it didn't work very well. And, so it started out with Don't Panic. And so she built me this whole beautiful, hilarious presentation to give.
Yeah.
Not while I was out freaking and didn't know any of this. She just kind of went, here, I did this for you. I was like, oh my God, you are my best friend ever right now. I am your slave forever, whatever. Thank you. Yeah. And so, so I got up there, and because it was a bit funny and I knew I could kind of carry that off, I had a bit more confidence, which bless her so much. Yeah. So, I had some fun with it. And at the end of it, they all applauded. Now, this is construction. This is guys in blue shirts and,
sitting there like that normally.
All of the things where it's like, oh, wow, yeah, exactly. And so to have that, as I tell everyone, like, there's nothing like the applause of 600 men spontaneously at your first speech to give you an addiction for public speaking. You're like, oh, give me some more of that. That's great. So powerful right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right, and then to double down, my boss, who was the one who made me do this, had this really jealous note when he came from like, I've never seen anyone applaud a toolbox before. It never happened. I was like, well, what do you want me to do about it? I didn't make them, But he was just like, there was just enough snark. He was like, how did you do that? Like, yeah, I can get used to this feeling. And I kind of never looked back, I still have nerves, but a lot of it I've realized is also excitement because I love it. I do.
Yeah.
It's a show, and you can make people laugh, you can educate people, you can inspire them. There's so many things you can do by speaking to a bigger audience.
Absolutely. And you're so natural, and I mean that's what people want now. They don't want someone who's up there just being a robot, just doing what they've rehearsed. They want to have a bit of fun, and they want the real person.
I can say I've not said I've never rehearsed. I have rehearsed, but I rehearse and then I let it go.
Absolutely.
So I get the key points. I know what I want to say. I've got A to B. I know how long, and then I just kind of get on stage and just let it all out and have a bit of fun and get distracted and be like, oh crap, now what am I supposed to actually tell them? I have some of those moments. But some of my best speeches I've kind of made up the night before and gone, oh, that's what I'm going to talk about.
That's happened with some of mine too. I've rehearsed like my own talks for weeks and weeks, and then the day before it's like, oh no, I need to change it. You just make some changes. But you would agree that whatever you say in front of any audience is always the right thing at the right time, and they'll always benefit. Yeah.
Plus, I trust the training. Like the coaching was very intensive training, how to read your audience, and gauge the feeling, and monitor, and all that sort of stuff that I do fairly unconsciously now.
Yeah.
I've only ever had one speech where they obviously were disgruntled, and that was actually at a very feminist, which I didn't know at the time. So I had a girlfriend who lived in Cairns, and she was just about to pop having her first baby, and so I wanted to go see her. So, being cheeky, I'm like, oh look, it's a speaking experience. I will just go and speak up there, and I just happened to see her at the same time. Tax deductible trip, thank you. And it was very heavily feminist, which, I come from a male-dominated industry. I've never really been in that circle. I've done a lot of reading, and I'm very pro-equality and all those things, of course, given the industry. I mean, but this was a different environment altogether. It was academically feminist. So there were a lot of university lecturers and stats, and I was just like, the first keynote, I'm just there going, oh, crap, I'm in the wrong place. So I had a flounce out at the speech I delivered for that, and then apparently there was so much chatter, both positive and negative, of my topic that I actually got asked to repeat it in the one blank spot they had the next day. So I kind of go, you know what, that's still winning.
It is. It is.
Yeah, double the room size. So I'm like, well, people are still listening. So now I kind of go, well, if I get at least one flounce, then I feel like I'm doing my job right. If someone's actually been moved to be upset by my words, then I've really got to them. And hopefully, whenever they're ready, that will have some resonance later in their life, or they'll take some time to think about it. But I do have I do like a flounce every now and then. It's like, yes.
Yeah, it's a great positive attitude to have about it, and it's like the heckler. If you get a heckler, you're doing a good job. Yeah.
Well, I did comedy. I did a stand-up comedy course as well.
I did. That's
I like to challenge myself. I do these things. I sign up for this, going, yeah, that'll be fun, and then I kind of crap my pants and go, oh my god, what did I do? Because she's like, yeah, you're going to learn comedy, and then we're going to do a 5-minute skit on stage live at the Paddo Sit Down Tavern, which is like the big comedy club in Brisbane. I was like, yeah, no worries. Then, of course, by the time we started, I'm like, what? And, of course, I've told everyone, because I just can't help myself. I'm going to do a comedy course. Yeah. So, of course, they've all found out. I'm like, oh, no. Worst thing ever. Getting up and making people laugh for 5 minutes. Hardest thing I've ever done. Hands down. Terrifying. Like, I've been public speaking by about 10 years by then. So experience, like, give me a topic, give me a time frame, done.
And you would make those audiences laugh in your talks.
I did. However, to deliberately do it, completely freaked out. Because I'm not teaching them anything, I'm not inspiring them, I'm not doing anything other than trying to make them laugh. And that pressure, I don't know how comedians do it, hats off to them, to do that on a continuous basis. But I did it. I got up there. I did my 5 minutes. I don't think I did myself any favor. I think I checked out a bit because I was so terrified.
Yeah.
You know what? I had friends. They laughed. They were kind of like, "Well, you got up there. Like, there's no way in effing hell you'd ever catch me doing it. Like, that's brave just doing that." I'm like, you know what? I'll take that. And it was a learning experience. But I did that because I wanted to learn better comedy. And what it taught me is that I'm already good enough in terms of my improv and delivery and all that sort of thing, that I probably don't need to go and keep doing courses to prove I'm good. I just need to share the love a bit more.
Well, I think it's great that you put your hand up and say yes to things. And I mean, that's one of the things that you inspire people with through your talks and through your, resilience stuff. It's like, say yes to things.
Figure it out later.
Give it a go. Yeah, I do it as well. I say yes to everything. Sometimes it backfires, but you just say yes and figure it all out. Now, tell us about your books, Becky. How many years have you been writing, and what inspired you to write the first one?
So again, in the whole, hey, put my hand up, give something a try. I had a couple of friends who were interested in writing. Me, never thought of myself as a writer. No, I'm an engineer and maths. I do project management. I boss people around. I do QA. I check other people's work for problems. I'm all of that. So I was inquiring with someone from my friends, and they're like, actually, I'd really like you to write something. I'm like, what? And she convinced me to give it a go. So I kind of took something I knew, and funnily enough, the feminist conference was the inspiration, because one of their very core premises, I suppose, for the environment I was in, was that they didn't believe women were taught what men were taught, that men are taught very differently and given vastly different skills from birth and through schooling and through leadership than what women are. And I found that quite confronting to hear. But obviously when I walked away, I thought about it. I went, well, I've been around men and learnt and taught and educated and, been surrounded by them for age 16. I actually wouldn't know if that was different for women. So I kind of had to take a step back and go, that actually could be true, because when I talk about risk management, not a lot of women know about it unless they're from the industry or they're taught it. So using that premise, I actually crafted my first book contribution. And it was called, it honoured the lady who made this, called The Secret Language of Men. And talking about risk management to kind of help balance out that extreme emotive response that sometimes women have when they're in overwhelm. And, I use the example of kind of spilling coffee on a shirt leads to the fact that their children are going to grow up destitute and beyond stress. And I've seen women do that sort of extreme meltdown when it's just wash out. Who's judging you? Really, is in the grand scheme of things, it's something you can probably have a moment, sure, but let go. You don't see a man melting down over spilling coffee on his shirt. 5 minutes later, he's forgotten it. But we women don't tend to. We attach a lot more to these kinds of things. So I use that sort of analogy to kind of just break down that doing risk management and kind of looking at just what the core issue is and the steps to go with that is a really functional skill. And that got me addicted, because I realised I've been a writer for a really long time. I've just been writing technically. I've been writing project plans and procedures and how to do things and really, really precise, follow a formula, impart information. But that just made me really good at technical writing, so I could craft something like this piece, but I had the freedom to craft around the technical in a sort of a much more creative, free-flowing form. And I was like, I kind of like this. I've got lots of things to say. So here's a way, like public speaking is a way of reaching more of an audience by not just one person having this discussion with, but many. 15 anthology contributions later, I kind of chucked them all in this book.
Words of Beck, yes.
It's available on Amazon, Smashwords, and in print.
Wonderful. So just look up Becky Paroz.
Yes. But yeah, so instead of, my friends are really supportive, but, buying 15 books from my chapter and amongst all the others, if they're not really interested in the rest of it, that's really, really supportive. So I kind of went, chuck it all in one book, gives me a book with my name on it, and kind of kicks me off ready to start. So I've contributed to a couple of other anthologies. I write for several magazines. You can't find them anymore on the shelf. They've just been withdrawn, but some of us might have some, because I believe congratulations, were
I still have some.
Yes, you were recognised by the magazine. So I've been writing for them for a while. I write for an industry magazine called Florence, and I did that because I wanted short form and bigger form, and I'm exploring lots of different writing, and now I'm actually writing a fiction book set in, funnily enough, the construction world.
Wow.
Kind of in the future, to disguise a lot of the people that I'm going to have to change their names in order to protect them because they're guilty. It's great therapy. What I've found is all those, people who are really annoying to become, murder victims, or, industrial accidents, or, this is a lot of therapy, but it's also a lot of fun to kind of capture I really want to capture the fun and the enjoyment and the camaraderie and the teamwork that's in construction that most people don't see.
No, that's it. Especially most women wouldn't see it.
Exactly. It truly is a big family, and when you're in there and you're appreciated for who you are and what you do, and it's got nothing to do with your gender, it really is a family. Look, I've got people all over the world that if I ran into and we connected and like, oh yes, you're on that project, I'd know I'd have a place to stay and a roof over my head and support if I needed it and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's that kind of family. But even 10 years, if we made a connection on the project, we still have that connection. So
isn't that fantastic? Because there's so much talk out there about women having to compete in a men's environment and they're never equal and all of this, but you're not experiencing that in the construction industry.
Oh, it's there. Don't think that it's not. But it's nowhere near. I mean, I started 30 years ago, so what I started with back then is nothing like what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back then I was told it's a man's world, girl, you don't belong here, and if you're going to be here, you better start to act like one of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So that included, enjoying the porn magazines at lunchtime. They've cleaned a lot of that stuff up now. Not that it really worries me, because I think there's bigger things to get upset by. But I've been supported and mentored by a lot of men in this industry. I've been told by a lot of men that I have what it takes and I should keep going, and given me knowledge and challenges beyond my years and skills. One of my first managers made me a manager at 24 years of age. And I've never looked back. I've always been in a management role since then because of that gift he gave me. Whereas, in this industry, it could have taken me another 10 years to get another management role, kind of thing. So I've been very blessed by very supportive men. But don't get me wrong, I've also been very challenged by men who absolutely refuse to believe I belonged. But again, that's just incentive to go, well, we'll see who gets the award this year, shall we, buddy?
That's it. And it doesn't make you fearless. And I think there might be some people watching who are just starting to kind of step up and feel a bit more empowered in their own life, and see people who are driven like yourself and me and other people that say that we're fearless. And it's not about the fearless. It's about embracing that and doing it anyway, isn't it? And finding a way through. And most fear is only because of the unknown. So as soon as you say yes and take that first step, the fear goes, except in your comedy skit where it was for the whole 5 minutes, but everything else, it kind of goes, doesn't it?
Well, so it's kind of like, well, do or die. You can stand there for 5 minutes and say nothing. That might have got many laughs. I don't know, but I think fearless is a misnomer. Like, we call ourselves fearless. I'd say I am fearless, but it's about recognizing that fear and going, is it real? Is this something that's going to endanger my life? Well, that's real fear, and that's something I should listen to. But if it's something because I'm uncertain, I'm not going to be good at it straight away because, I'm a high achiever. So if I don't get it right first time, it's not worth doing. All of those kind of elements. And I had a policy: if it made me scared, go out there and do it. I've jumped out of planes as a result. I've flown helicopters. I've got race cars. I've driven ridiculously fast speeds to conquer that kind of fear and nerves. And with public speaking, the second, third, fourth, fifth time, I still had the nerves and still had to make sure I hadn't eaten beforehand because it might be resisted and all that stuff. And it's a case of keep going. And now that fear is excitement. And so, fearless isn't the right word, is it? But yet it is the descriptor we use for those of us who feel the fear and do it anyway, as so the quote goes.
That's it. That's a brilliant answer, because you just have to decide whether it's true or not, or whether it's a false projection into the future, which most of the fear is. So now you're helping budding authors now to self-publish their books, and people can reach out to you just on your Facebook page here. I'll put it in the comments. So you can go through the process with them of self-publishing if they're interested in writing their books.
Yes. So there's a lot of hybrid author support and all sorts of things out there. I suppose what I want to do is I like people to be self-sufficient. So I'm not interested in having people that keep coming back to me book after book. I want to teach you, if you want to learn how to self-publish, I want to teach you how to make one of these all on your own. We'll go through the first one. We'll talk about cover. We'll talk about back blur, which every author has a nightmare over. How to put it together. How to decide what size, where to go, how to get a good print, how to ebook it, formatting, all of the things. So the idea is once you've produced that book with my support, you can go and produce as many books as you like. Or if you want to go down the traditionally sort of published path and go down it, what to look for and the pitfalls and the scams and all the things that people sometimes take advantage of, because if you want to write a book, there's a lot of people out there who play on your ego.
Absolutely. And I think there was a time, because I've self-published a few books as well, and next time I would like to have a publisher, only because it will go into more places. But there's a misnomer about all the publishing as well, right? And people think, if I get a publisher, I don't have to do anything.
So not true
You've
these days.
still got to do all of it. It's just that you will get in more places with
and faster. That's the other thing. You'll have a bit more of a PR machine promoting,
and the name behind it.
Exactly. You know, they'll throw you out into bookstores and kind of push your name, whereas an independent author doing that is a lot harder. But yeah, at the end of the day, you've got to do as much work on the traditional side these days as you do self-publish, which is why self-publishing is so popular. But the problem with self-publishing when it kicked off is a lot of people didn't do the right things. They got really cheesy covers, or they did it themselves. And writing and cover art, again, two different skills.
Yes.
And they didn't edit, and you know, no one likes reading spelling mistakes over and over again. And like the books where they get the name, they change the name halfway through the book and kind of didn't check it. But there's a lot of stuff out there that if the writer was paying attention and wanting to do a professional job should have been cleaned up in the process. So that's how self-publishing got a bad name. But people like me, and I know a lot of self-published authors, really want to be a professional about it, and we just prefer the ownership, because you know we're all control freaks, so no one gets to tell us how to do it.
That's it. That's right.
Sure. So because we understand the market out there is that it's not geared towards authors making money; it's geared towards publishing houses making money. And that model's starting to change, and it is being challenged. But yeah, we need a lot more people championing the self-published model, and that's why I want to get out there and help people do it for themselves, so that they can then go and, you know, sing the praises of doing it and get on with publishing books, and you know, get together, we all rise. So
that's it. And doing it and teach them in a professional way, which would be really good.
And I spent 6 years learning it, so I think it's a skill I can sort of turn into I suppose an income stream. And I've got some people I've helped. So slowly. I never thought I'd be into children's books, but so far I've been supported 2 ladies with their children's books. So I'd like to get something meaty and a bit bigger. But you know, I've got, again, slowly. It's only something in the last month or so I've kind of realised, particularly with COVID, and sort of things I can do while at home with the immune suppression issues I've got and all that sort of stuff. So and I love it. I love reading, so I want to be a part of creating more books, simply so I always have something to read. It's purely selfish.
Absolutely. But you know, for the people who are writers, this is giving them a great chance too, if they can't go to work or if they are at home, to get their book done as well. So it's a perfect opportunity, really.
Absolutely.
So if you are listening to this, please reach out to Becky if you would like to learn about self-publishing. And you're such an inspiration, and you know, really help people bring their own resilience to the fore, so that they can, you know, start moving forward and feel that they're living an empowered life, not somebody else's life. So what advice would you have for the people watching today if, you know, if they have come to that point in their life where they're like, they're drawing the line in the sand?
Look, lots of advice. The first thing I suppose I tell a lot of my mentorees is, if someone tells you you can't do it, prove them wrong. You know, that's a really great, there's a coaching thing called away from and toward motivation, which I won't get into, but when you're kicking off and you're trying to get away from, that's the motivation you need to sort of push you towards a goal. Because when you're getting away from something, you don't really know what you want, you just know you don't want that. And so proving people wrong is a really great start point. You know, I am worthy, I deserve better, I can do better, I can earn more, I can be by myself, all of the things that you believe to be true, you need a motivator to start making them true. So that'd be the first one. I think the second one, look, I didn't do this because I'm stubborn and I'm independent and I'll do it myself. And also I didn't grow up with any support, so I didn't know what good support looked like. But get good support. You know, whether it's counselling, whether it's therapy, a good coach that's actually invested in you, that will challenge you. There's a great deal of coaches out there, and I believe some of them aren't doing it to the best for the client, because coaching's not cheerleading. It's not about saying how great you are and, you know, yay with pom-poms. It's actually like, that was good. How are we going to be better tomorrow on that? And that's a very different mindset to a lot of what people think coaching is about. So get a really good support team. Even just in my job, you know, I had some men who saw what I was capable of, and actually gave me more and more to do and pushed me and challenged me to just take higher steps and achieve more. I was facilitating risk workshops that senior guys in their 50s were doing when I was in my late 20s, because these guys gave me the skills and pushed me and said, do it. There's a totally funny story in my book about presenting to guys in Gove, which is in the middle of nowhere, Darwin, like rough, sweaty man territory, in pink track pants with Foxy written across my butt because of flight changes and no time to change. So, it's one of my best stories. My book, we'll get back on and we can talk about that. But that story is what I used to tell people, that you can do anything and you can capture an audience if you know your stuff and you're confident enough. I forgot what I was wearing. In front of those, they probably didn't. However, I did, and so I was able to deliver and sound knowledgeable and hold the room and do the things I needed to. So a great support team is vital. The people who are going to cheer you on and go, yes, you can do this. The people who are dragging you back, going, don't change, stay here. You're not worth it. You're not good enough. You'll never amount to. Those people, you need to lessen the time in your life and stop listening. I think that's probably maybe the third key is don't be afraid to move on. There are sort of people, reason, season, or a lifetime, but some of those people are family. Some of those people who think that they're really good friends and have been in your life for ages. And sometimes, if you want true change and you want to be the person you really, really desire, sometimes you have to let a lot of things go.
It's the hardest thing, isn't it? That's one of the hardest things my clients struggle with. It's like, we've been friends for 30 years, or, they're my auntie, or they're my cousin, or it's like, if they're dragging you down, spend a very small percentage of time, if any, with them. Move on.
And I kind of liken to it. I mean, it's a bit extreme, but, it's the same as an abusive relationship. If you are working to get out of that, once you're out of it, you don't go back and you don't give them airtime. So if you want your mindset and you want your life to look like you are working towards it, you have got to clean up what is not working. And that is one of the hardest things to do is get outside of that comfort zone and the people who've kept you safe and made you feel safe, and realizing that perhaps they've done it for their benefit, not yours.
And I think and some of those people also help to validate you as well. And so who are you without that? Who are you outside of that?
Those people will remind you when you're going through this change. I'll be the first people to remind you that you were nothing without me. That is actually really damaging and really disappointing to hear, because it means that your relationship is all for them and not for you. So there's a lot of keywords you can look for, but those two things combined with the support, you kind of need to have people that you're moving towards and want to be like and be around more as you move away from those sorts of things, proving people wrong. And I suppose we talked about fear. So it's just fear. Eat it for breakfast and then get out there and kick it in the teeth.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and inspiring us with your story and your grit and your determination and your amazing knowledge, and also just your gorgeous energy and fun. And you really are just living life to the full, and I think it's fantastic, and we should all do more of it.
Absolutely. Go and get one for the chest run.
That's it. So for everybody listening and watching, please reach out to Becky's on just here through Facebook. You can just send her a message. We were talking about that before. Send her a message if you are interested in having some support in publishing your own book, or if you need some support in mentoring as well. She can help you with that too. Thank you, Becky. It's been a blast. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I will see you next week on TrishRockTV. Bye for now.